Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast.
Wherever you find American troops today, you find the men of the Transportation Corps. Enough and on time. That's the story we tell you today. The story of the Army Quartermaster Corps.
These youthful servicemen are members of the Army's Military Police Corps.
One of the most important forces behind the lines, the Army Ordnance Corps.
Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast. Once again, I am Staff Sergeant Adam Ross, Public Affairs NCOIC for 19th Expeditionary Sustainment Command. And today is a special podcast because we are on the road today. We are not coming to you from Camp Henry. We are in Camp Humphreys, Republic of Korea. And today we are joined by the 94th Military Police Battalion Command Team of Lieutenant Colonel Scott Chalkley and Command Sergeant Major Cedric Henson. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks very much for coming up here and doing this up for us up here.
Yeah, it was a nice little road trip coming up. Good to see Humphreys. So we usually start our episodes just kind of getting to know our guests. So, sir, we'll start with you. Can you tell me a little bit about what made you decide to join the Army, get into the MP Corps?
So I've been in the Army for about 19 years, and I was inspired by my dad, who was a military police officer, and he served for 29 years. So growing up, getting to watch him, and we traveled throughout the world throughout his career, really inspired me. And so I wanted to kind of continue that legacy, follow on, continue to serve, and so that's really kind of my inspiration for why I wanted to serve. So
did your dad wear the helmet? Is it
so? He is old enough to where he would have started wearing the old MP helmet, with the stripe. So it would have been a long time ago. I'm sure he probably doesn't want to talk about that. But he's actually started as an armor officer for 4 years. He started out as a tanker, and then he transitioned to be an MP.
Okay. And where did you commission through, sir?
At ROTC through Virginia Military Institute, a small school in Lexington, Virginia. I've
heard of it, yeah. I've never been down there before. But Sergeant Major, how about you? What brought you to the Army?
A similar story. The majority of my family did have ties to the military, different branches, uncles, grandfather, brother, cousins, all took part and joined. So I was always around it, and it just felt like, it was something that definitely fit, and I joined up.
Great. Sounds good. And so how long have both of you been in Korea now?
I've only been here since last June, so about 9 or 10 months.
In April, it'll be 2 years for me.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I remember. So, yeah, Sergeant Major and I were both at 42nd MP Brigade together. I remember going to your going away ceremony there, Sergeant Major. Yeah. Good times. And hearing that sound, that means it's time we're going to change gears here. We're going to go into our 50-meter target questions. So these are going to be rapid-fire questions. Hope to get some quick answers from you. And Sergeant Major, we're going to stay with you right here. First question. If you could have immense musical talent with one instrument, what would it be?
Absolutely the piano. Absolutely.
Okay, sir, how about you?
Man, I'm going to say the banjo. I'm going to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Because why not?
All right, sir, staying with you, what is your most memorable re-enlistment, recommissioning ceremony?
I would say just recently, we did one in Daegu. I can't remember the name of the mountain, but it was...
Opsan?
Opsan Mountain, yeah, exactly. The platoon had done a hike all the way up to the top, and it was for a promotion, just right there overlooking the beauty of Daegu. It really was incredible. So I'm really glad they allowed us to come down for that.
Oh, yeah. I love Opsan. Yeah, it looks over everything there.
Oh, yeah.
Sergeant Major, how about you?
I think it was a re-enlistment ceremony that was most interesting. Off in Cuba, while stationed there, we had a soldier go out in inner tubes. Myself and Commander re-enlisted a soldier out there. So that was pretty interesting.
I'm always surprised at the Guantanamo Bay stories I hear from 31 Echoes. Yeah, see, not many soldiers get to go there, but it sounds like an interesting place. Okay, staying with you, Sergeant Major, if you could create a new tab or badge in the Army, what would it be?
Tab or badge? Wow. Stumped.
Okay. Well, we'll stay with you. Sir, do you have one? Can you think of one?
Well, I got to throw something out for the MPs. Maybe just a formal badge that can be worn and displayed that's authorized.
Okay.
After a certain certification period, I think that.
I can see that. All right, sir. Korea is kind of known for its traffic. What is the worst traffic you've encountered in your career? What location at the worst?
Oh, Washington D.C. Hands down. No close. I even did training with industry in New Jersey outside New York City, and still Washington D.C. traffic I still think is the worst.
That's pretty bad. Yeah, Sergeant Major, can you think of one?
The one that comes to my mind is the traffic that never moved. Unfortunately, it was 9/11 in Hawaii, and traffic just came to a stop, and folks would end up walking to get to where they needed to go. So
wow. Okay, last question. Staying with you, Sergeant Major. Okay, even though the APFT is no longer the test of record in the Army, but thinking back to all the PT tests you've taken, what was the worst conditions you endured for a PT test, like weather?
Joint base Lewis McChord. We started out. It was the normal Washington rain, drizzle, turned ice coming in sideways, and by the end of the run, everybody just looked exhausted just from the precipitation, but at the same time, everybody was just as motivated. So pretty memorable.
And that was was it Railroad Avenue out there?
Absolutely, Railroad Avenue.
Oh, I know that well. Okay, sir, how about you?
I'd say probably Baghdad 2004, running around Fob Falcon in the summer.
Yeah, I'd say one of my deployment PT tests on Kandahar is probably one my worst one.
Just the lovely dust and dirt kicking up and the fun heat.
All right, and with that, we're going to take a break. We're going to step away for a little bit, but we're going to come back and talk more about what the 94th MP Battalion does right here in the Every Soldier Counts podcast.
This is First Lieutenant James Rainey with the 19th ESC Surgeon Cell. Remember to continue following the core tenets. Protect yourself by staying ready and resilient. Have a proper work and life balance. Protect your bubble by minding the meter and mask at the ready. Avoid large groups and crowds. Protect others. Feeling sickly? Leave quickly. Call the USFK COVID hotline if you feel any symptoms. This number is 050-3337-2556.
We're back here on the Every Soldier Counts podcast. We are joined today again by the command team of 94th MP Battalion, Colonel Chalkley and Sergeant Major Henson. And so we talk a lot about with 19th ESC how we serve the whole peninsula. We have units everywhere, but with 94th MP, you guys it does really seem like you are everywhere. Sir, can you break down the scope of your mission here with 94th MP?
Oh, I'd love to. So. First, I want to just give a plug to our battalion, just the uniqueness of being here in Korea. So, like you said, our battalion really is everywhere here on the peninsula. We're the only military police battalion that's on the peninsula, and we go all the way from Area 1 down to Area 4. We have military police professionals that are out there every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have military police men and women that are out there protecting the force. And that's a very important piece and probably the biggest piece of what we do here in the 94th. And so with that, our biggest battalion mission set is to provide those trained professionals that go out and work for the garrison commanders to enforce the laws here on the peninsula, providing that trained professional response force capability to any situation that's needed, and that's really our biggest piece of what we do.
And Sergeant Major, what are some of the challenges that come with that, especially with having leaders so far away from the flagpole right here?
And really, that is the challenge. Being able to have that mission command of those organizations, knowing that each garrison has its own uniqueness, and then being able to service those different garrisons, while at the same time, ensuring that those natural things that we as leaders are consistently engaged and challenged with, in terms of quality of life for our soldiers, and then understanding all of those from area to area. That is a challenge, but one that has to be tackled.
And so what, Siri, can you think of what are some other challenges you face as a battalion here?
Just the contrast of, kind of what Sergeant Major was talking about, we don't, for our unit, we can't, Monday morning see the entire battalion formation and put out guidance for an end of week brief. That's just not something we can do. We've got people that are on shift, days, swings, mids, whatever their schedule is going to be, people that are in the correctional facility providing care and custody, and then we're split between all the areas. So being able to build leadership at the right echelon that can professionally lead and make things happen is a challenge. But we've got some of the greatest NCOs I've ever seen that are able to get after it every day, and great leaders and great soldiers that just continue to impress.
And so how do your three priorities fit into that, sir?
So really, how do you set the conditions for that to happen? And that's the challenge in of itself. So, building trust in the organization, building trust, and building that climate of dignity and respect where those things can foster, that's got to happen first. And so, our lines of effort for our battalion, by no coincidence, line of effort number one, of course, is the most important. And for us, that's integrating a strong team. And that starts even before soldiers arrive here in Korea. It starts with a strong sponsorship program, so that people know what to expect when they arrive. And then it goes through that quarantine period that everybody's going through, maintaining that contact. And then once folks are out of quarantine, what does that in-processing look like? And then how we get straight into training. And for most of our formations, it's some kind of law enforcement certification, or we call the gatekeeper for the folks that are going to go into the correctional facility and work. And so that those standards, all that happens right when they get here, so that we can kind of inculcate what our values of the organization are. And so that's really one of the biggest things that we have to get right, is integrating that strong team and then continue to build that team.
So we mentioned the law enforcement and the detention mission, but then you also have the military working dogs. What are some of the other missions that you support on the peninsula?
Oh yeah, so most people would think, okay, when they see MPs, they think MPs in patrol vehicles, out conducting traffic stops and those kind of things, because that's what we see. But we also have a lot of other important support things. You mentioned the military working dogs. Both explosive and drug dog detection capability that we provide throughout the peninsula to protect the force. But we also have support military police. We also escort, and that's a big piece. We call that movement support to mobility, to where we can help secure movements that happen throughout the theater. 19th ESC with the Korean rotational force that happens, we work to help with some of the security aspects of that, and the interoperability with the Korean police and the ROK Army. The detention capability. So we have the correctional facility, but military police were also involved in detention operations too, if needed. How can we manage that for the peninsula as well? That's a very important capability that we can bring to the Army.
And Sergeant Major, I know your background is in detentions. Before I got to work with you at 42nd MP, I knew nothing about that side of the Army. What can you tell me about being the challenges of being a 31 Echo in that mission? Well,
it's a lot of similarities when you look at the military police soldier in general. And what we end up doing is just kind of branching off into two different distinct disciplines. But typically, there's the law enforcement certification that occurs, and for the 31 Echo, it's focused mainly inside of making sure that custody and control is maintained inside of correctional facilities throughout the Department of Defense, and then from there, some of those same things that are trained by all military police soldiers, less than lethal capabilities, personal protection techniques, evidence collection, so all of those things across the board are typically the same. We really branch out, and start thinking where in one discipline you're looking inside, into a facility and trying to understand the atmospherics of that population, while, our brothers and sisters that were 31 Bravos are looking at the populations in our communities, and trying to understand those atmospherics as well, all in trying to maintain order, so a lot of similarities. The grind of shift work is the same across, and it takes a special soldier. It's a lot of responsibility for a 18-year-old straight out of high school that we invest and give to our soldiers, but they do it remarkably.
And you mentioned young soldiers, Sergeant Major. Let's talk about KATUSAs. I know they're a big part of your mission, and they're often, young themselves when they come into our formation. How do you integrate KATUSAs into those missions? Yeah,
so we could not execute our mission without the KATUSAs in our formation. That I could sit and talk about the KATUSAs contribution to the 94th MP Battalion all day long, but really at the end of the day, they serve a purpose for us that many don't understand. We talked earlier about the uniqueness of the 94th MP Battalion, and the law enforcement commitment required by our battalion is bigger than most battalions. If I could just kind of break it down in layman's terms, typically stateside you would have a law enforcement detachment that would control the provost marshal's offices, to where all of the sections are, your military police investigators, your traffic personnel, traffic investigators. You'll have them all in the station. You think about police work, and you think about a movie, and you think about the police station, all of those folks that work inside of there. And then you think about those that are patrolling the streets. Well, typically what battalions do, there's a law enforcement detachment that runs the police station, and then most battalions have the mission of just providing patrols. Well, here in the 94th MP Battalion, we're asked to do both. So it creates such a large law enforcement commitment. First of all, it just would be impossible not to be able to do it with our KATUSAs based off of demand and requirements. But that understanding, that cultural understanding that they bring to us and to our formation, and help us become ambassadors while we're here operating on the Korean Peninsula, is just huge. Their appreciation when you think about a country and the trust that they have given us as an Army, to say, here are our sons and daughters that can be nested with you, and you utilize them as you see fit, is just amazing, and they amaze me with their performance every day.
And sir, go ahead, sir.
No, I was going to say absolutely, and one of the things that just the most visible is, anytime you see a military police vehicle out in the community, there's a KATUSA in there. It is a military police officer and one of our KATUSA, and they both, from the day when they join our organization, they'll go through the same law enforcement certification with our MPs. There's no difference. They'll go through that training. They'll be they live in the barracks. They can be roommates with the soldiers. They are part of that MP team. Like, absolutely. They are all together. And one of the fascinating things that just I've seen with that is, where else would you see that? I've been stationed in Europe for a long time, but there's no Polizei that rides along inside the police car with our military police. The way that we're synchronized here in Korea is I would argue, unique to the world with how we conduct the law enforcement. It really is incredible.
And sir, you mentioned before what you talking about reception and integration, and that's so critical here in Korea, where a lot of the soldiers are doing 1-year assignments. So how do you create a strong team with that in mind, knowing a lot of them, just aren't here for that long versus stateside.
Oh, that's absolutely a challenge, but we like to take that as a challenge and just say that, hey, we get to have a lot of reps at doing reception and integration, so we got a lot of opportunities to continue to refine it. And so we take that same approach, like we talked about, that aggressive sponsorship to where people are identified before they even come on pen to know what to expect. That we utilize that quarantine time, because why not? They're there, so let's continue to engage, providing our, the care packages, and then, also information about the battalion while they're in quarantine. Get as much of the in-processing administrative stuff done so that when they come out, they can, meet their team leader. They can integrate into the unit. They can go meet all the POCs that they're going to need to for the in-processing. And then they can get into their respective law enforcement certification and get trained on what the standards are here in Korea. We, with that high rotation, we get to do that a lot. So I like to think that we're able to refine that system as we get continued reps at it.
And Sergeant Major, a lot of times those soldiers is their first duty assignment. And so what do you tell your leaders, how best to integrate and develop new soldiers?
Yeah, so there is a lot of focused training with our leaders. For instance, right now we have a Junior Leaders Academy on, and we talk and teach on the importance of the reception and integration phase for our soldiers based off of that short tour. One of the things that I've saw is that we have an important role in rewriting the narrative of Korea. We a lot of times I've one of my common questions for soldiers that are just arrived is, what did you hear about Korea before you showed up? And a lot of times they will tell a tale that is not conducive to what's happening here. And so when you're talking about a private that's showing up from basic training with that narrative, you have to ask yourself, now where is that coming from, right? Not many places that could be coming from. So how do we rewrite that narrative? How do we get soldiers excited prior to even stepping off of the plane that they're coming to a place that they're going to be embraced, cared for, and want to be empowered? So we do strong in our sponsorship, all the way to sending out packets to basic trainings now, our basic training, our AITs, to kind of write what we want that narrative to look like, and then get them here and really focus in on that reception and integration piece. We'll forever be in a formation enrichment phase of team building. I believe it's hard sometimes to get to that sustainment phase of team building because of the turnaround. So we really have to make our money on those processes in integrating our soldiers, inculcating them to the units.
And so with those care packages and packets you mentioned you send to basic training, so what would you find in those?
The first thing you'll see is our battalion photo. And it was an opportunity we had while training up in Riflick to where it's an aerial photo of our soldiers in the shape of a 9-4, united and representing our organization well. So that's the first thing that they'll see. But then inside of the packet, what we did was we provided them information. What Korea looked like, this is what's going to happen when you get off the plane. These are some websites if you need further information, if you're bringing family, so on and so forth. A lot of informational things, but to help rewrite that narrative, we also, throughout the sponsorship packet, added those photos of our soldiers in action at work on a day-to-day basis. So regardless of what was being said, what soldiers were now visualizing is the type of what my training days will look like and things of that nature. So that, we hope it will have huge gains for us.
And you think that's had a positive effect so far?
I do believe it has.
Interesting. And let's talk about dogs. Everybody likes dogs, sir. When I took pictures of military working dogs, often those are the most engaged pictures we share online. So people, I think you mentioned the bomb sniffing dogs before. I think that's maybe the common perception of military working dogs. What all goes into their mission here on the peninsula?
Absolutely. Everybody loves dog, and it is it's an incredible capability, one that just can't be replicated, really to the extent that we can get with a dog. So like you mentioned, for the explosive detecting dogs, so all of our dogs are patrol dogs, and they also have a specialty of what they can sniff. And so we have patrol explosive dogs, and we have patrol narcotics dogs, the drug dogs. And so our explosive dogs are great. They help augment each of the garrisons with that capability for the installation access control points to help for the random searches of things coming in and off the installation, as well as if there's a distinguished visitor that's going to come, they can do sweeps of certain areas to make sure that it's free of explosives. And the other capability is, of course, the drug dogs, which great for going on patrols. But I'd like to plug just for all the commanders that are out there. If you want to do health and welfare inspections or integrate into your health and welfare inspections, you can absolutely request the narcotic detecting dogs as part of that health and welfare. It's a great capability. You can be coordinated through our battalion and have that dog team go through with your health and welfare inspection. It's a great capability just to have to detect anything, but it's also a good deterrent for folks to see and know that conditions are taken seriously and that the drugs are just not tolerated.
And Sergeant Major, what feedback have you gotten from other leaders around the peninsula to using the canines in that mission, the health and welfare inspection?
I agree with the battalion commander on the plug. Hey, we want commanders to continue to utilize that. Those that do always feel like it brings another capability to them to be able to have good order and discipline within their formation. So definitely positive feedback for those dog teams.
And when I've worked with the military working dog teams before, I'm always surprised that like the certification process and the constant training, you really need chemistry basically between the handler and the dog.
Absolutely. And so really here is the fastest I've ever seen, based on like the turnover like we were talking about before. So right now for our working dog handlers, they come over on the 1 year rotation just like everybody else, and just by the nature of how the dogs don't move with the handlers, so the dogs are still here, and so they have to get familiarized with the dog and go through the train up, validation, certification, and before they're a certified team to be able to go out and conduct that mission, and then just counterparts in Europe and in CONUS, that could be a 120 to 180 day process. So here, we really work to try to get 90 days or less, and we've tried to figure out exactly how we can do start familiarization as early as possible to make sure getting that in processing streamlined, so we're not missing opportunities. For soldiers to not get familiarized with that dog, to maximize the limited amount of time that we have in that 1 year rotation. And then just recently, we from 19th ESC, assistance from the CG, we were able to get AIP introduced as a critical MOS for military working dogs. So great capability.
And so kind of closing things out here, we talking about rewriting the narrative of Korea. You both have pretty good experience in Korea now, been here for a while. Could each of you give what's been like one of your most memorable experiences here on the peninsula since you've been here?
You've been here longer, Sergeant. You go ahead.
Most memorable experience. I think it was for me. I watched how the battalion pulled together during the COVID crisis. When we began to get word of what was happening with COVID, it really allowed our military police soldiers at every echelon to say, hey, game on, right? The garrisons came a-calling, commanders came a-calling, and when in need was never more prevalent than at that point. We were the tip of the spear throughout that process And, after it was all said and done, being able to capture those lessons learned and pushing them out to the rest of the Army, extremely proud of the organization during that time of crisis.
Sir, how about you? It doesn't even need to be mission related, like a place you visited, just experiencing the culture here.
Well, just recently. I mean, so one, completely everything Sergeant Major said. It really is incredible. Just despite being geographically dispersed, the complexities of working in every garrison and those challenges and opportunities, and then on top of that, the COVID environment, and being able to get after all the additional training. So that in and of itself is truly incredible. But recently, Sergeant Major and I had the opportunity to go to the signal school, the Rock Army Signal School, and we got to see the Rock Army basic training for their new signal school and their version of the Bullock for their officers too, all done there. It was an interoperability exchange of communication. Very important for us as MPs. From security, being able to talk to Rock Army. For the how we can coordinate potential base defense or security escorts, and so being able to figure out some of the the interoperability of the communications, so we could talk on secure networks and things like that, really was eye opening. Just the level of interoperability that we're able to achieve here in Korea, with how well nested we are. That's going to stay with me, and we're going to continue to refine that and get better. But it really was being able to see and walk the grounds there and seeing their capabilities really was impressive.
And I saw the pictures from that visit, and I was surprised to see it looked like the Rock Army Signal Branch uses orange, just like U.S. Army Signal
Absolutely.
Branch. Yeah.
They sure do.
I don't know if that's a coincidence or what. All right, well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I just want to remind everyone that if you want to keep abreast of the 94th MP mission, the different companies, they're very active on Facebook, 94th MP Battalion Facebook page, and all your subordinate companies have their pages. I just want to thank you for joining us again today, and have yourself a great weekend when in need.
When in need.
All right.